Let's get lucky.
The Giants are probably going to open up 1-5 on the season. So then you start to say the fans are getting angry. They just want to see Dart. The ownership's like, hey, you know what? Maybe we make the right move with Russ here. But then you have self-preservation mode with the general manager and the head coach where it almost seems like it's inevitable. Midway through the season, it's going to have to be Jackson Dart. Otherwise, what are we doing, Giants?
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It should be illegal for Scottie Scheffler to play on the PGA Tour. This guy can't be stopped. Another victory at the BMW Championship. He has a chip on the 17th, which will go down in the history books. 82 feet, landed 60 feet short, and then rolled the rest of the way. Super exciting win again for Scheffler, who is not only the best golfer in the world, he's becoming one of the best golfers of all time.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
It doesn't matter that they're early in the game, late in the game, they're trailing, they're leading. It doesn't matter, garbage time. CeeDee Lamb is the guy, and we saw that even after Dak got hurt last year and Cooper Rush was under center. Targets were going to CeeDee Lamb. And when you can get 9, 10, 12, 15 targets on a game-by-game basis, he's going to rack up fantasy points every single week. Frankly, he underperformed last year.
Game time decisions, only.
I didn't see you there. Game time decisions. We're making a couple as we get you set for Monday Night Football to close out week number 1 in the National Football League right here on SportsGrid with the premier sports betting pregame show. Kevin Walsh over the next 90 minutes as we set it up and knock it down. And there's no fake in this game. We are legitimately making a couple of game time decisions as we return here and get set for what should be an important one. I can't promise you a great one, but I promise you an important one between NFC North rivals, Minnesota and Chicago. The Bears at home, a slight underdog despite all of the hype around Caleb Williams and head coach Ben Johnson, who's the Coach of the Year favorite. Mind you, on the other side of the field, it is J.J. McCarthy making his NFL debut. McCarthy and Williams in the same draft class, but J.J. McCarthy has more knee surgeries than games played since being drafted, and it makes tonight's game tricky. And I think a lot of the times when you bet a game, think about last night's big game. Were you betting on Josh Allen? Were you betting on Lamar Jackson? And I don't mean in the props market, when you were figuring out your side. I think tonight is less about betting on Caleb Williams or betting on J.J. McCarthy, but for many it is probably about betting against either Caleb Williams or J.J. McCarthy. I will be at the window within this football game on the side. We will poke around the props market as well. But what a tricky props market this could be. Justin Jefferson, you imagine, is the most reliable guy in this game. He is undeniably the most talented and prolific player, but he has a new quarterback. So are these 80.5 numbers trustworthy in the J.J. McCarthy debut? And if that's a valid question around Justin Jefferson, then good luck figuring out who is RB1 in Minnesota, whether you're thinking about betting Jordan Mason or Aaron Jones. Good luck figuring out the Chicago backfield, although it might be simple. DeAndre Swift seems to be the guy. It's just that most people don't believe he's all that good at football. And the pass-catching room, DJ Moore and Roman Dunze, a push and pull. Who was wide receiver 1? Luther Burden and Colston Loveland are a couple of high draft picks who people think there's a lot of promise. It's a lot. It's a lot to figure out this prop game here on Monday night. We will learn a lot, undoubtedly, though, in this football game. 1.5 is the spread. down to 1 in some places. The money line, though, is consistent and shading towards the Vikings. The total in this game sitting 43.5 anywhere you look. So some consistency there. If perhaps, though, you are looking to bet outside of the NFL game tonight, it could be the Major League Baseball board that would catch your attention. A legitimate question around whether or not the New York Mets should be favored in Philadelphia. And if you think the answer to that is yes, maybe you justify it solely on the idea that Aaron Nola is washed. And there is plenty of evidence to suggest that he is. But the Mets are not playing great baseball. The Mets just lost 2 consecutive and a full series overall to the Cincinnati Reds, which could be important. The saving grace for the Mets is they throw their new ace, Nolan McLean. There's no other way to describe the youngster. He has to be. You know, in the middle of the season, I thought it was Kodai Senga. Nope. Clay Holmes? No. Sean Manaea? No. So the Mets throw their ace and are booked as favorites on the road because of it. Something that could be relevant when we start to break down postseason baseball, which is going to creep up on us. Here, though, of course, on Game Time Decisions, we will be involved in the games, but we also have to react to the markets. It's a market movement Monday, and no game, maybe this season, will bring as much movement. I know that sounds ridiculous because it's week 1, but Sunday night football between Buffalo and Baltimore shook up the market, including giving us a new Super Bowl favorite. And we talked a lot about the Super Bowl market here on Game Time Decisions. And the Buffalo Bills, albeit in a comeback fashion, where there were moments in this game it looked like the Ravens were going to completely dump them on their head and toss them aside. But the Buffalo Bills winning this game, that alone validates not betting the Ravens at their price pregame or still now. The Baltimore Ravens have lost games like this throughout this core's time together. We know that to be true. And it's not going to change in the middle of the year, and you're not going to feel entirely confident about it during a potential playoff run. So why are you paying top dollar? Especially relative to a team like the Buffalo Bills, who are not only 1-0, but project to have a much easier division. The rest of the AFC East, winless. Cincinnati eked out a win. Pittsburgh eked out a win. Maybe not the most impressive results you've seen, but still 1-0, sitting above the Baltimore Ravens. Again, when you put these two side by side. This, of course, also gave us a new league MVP favorite because Josh Allen had one of the best games of the weekend in just the fourth quarter, throwing for 250 yards. I'm not kidding. How many quarterbacks left week number 1 with more than 250 passing yards? Less than 10. Josh Allen did it in a quarter and now sits atop the mountain for league MVP favorite. You also have a new favorite in Derrick Henry for offensive player of the year. Derrick Henry, though, did provide us with the fumble in this game, and that Derrick Henry fumble obviously was a big-time change, just clearly not enough of a change to stop him from being the favorite. I guess 18 carries for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns means a little bit more. Quickly, though, let's hear what Derrick Henry had to say about that loss last night to the Buffalo Bills.
Well, first of all, I got to take care of the ball. I told my teammates at the game to put the boss on me.
Ultimately, for Henry, it was a tough loss. I think many Ravens fans and backers will try and tell you they are fine. Is it the same temperature, though, in Detroit? Because the Detroit Lions last year smashed a lot of teams. And Green Bay was one of them. And the Green Bay Packers could not beat good teams last year. Well, it's a new year. 27-13, Green Bay rolled up Detroit. Micah Parsons got a sack in his first start as a Green Bay Packer, and we know that that is important. We have some news around Brock Purdy that we need to get to that is just starting to trickle out. We will do that as well. But we'll break down how the market has moved on both Green Bay and how the market has moved on Detroit. There's a lot coming up here tonight on Monday. We will get to all of the market moves. We will get to the Major League Baseball board, but we will highlight Monday Night Football. Caleb Williams versus J.J. McCarthy, two quarterbacks from the same draft class with a lot of expectations on them entering 2025. Which one is worth backing on a Monday night? We ask that question to you, the people, and to our next guest, Tom Vecchio. We try to answer it to the best of our ability after this commercial break.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Game time decisions. It's a Monday night on SportsGrid, which means we have Monday Night Football. The Chicago Bears, a slight home dog against the Minnesota Vikings. So let's just get it on the board. Tonight, for me, I'm backing the Chicago Bears. I think that they're the better football team. So at home, plus 1.5, I'll take it. And people will laugh at me and say, just bet the money line. Don't tell me what to do, first of all, okay? And second of all, did you not watch Sunday Night Football? A point could matter. 2 points could matter. We're not getting 2 points. We're getting 1.5, but I'm backing the Chicago Bears. Let's find out from our next guest, which is, of course, Tom Vecchio, a big part of what we do here on SportsGrid throughout the football season, the baseball season as well. If time allows, we'll ask him about that. But tell me, Tom, Bears-Vikings, are you getting a lean here, if not a straight-up play, on who is the right side in this football game?
The Bears. I am also on the Bears. I'm also on the under. Not expecting a whole lot of scoring. You know, this is a really interesting matchup just from a football perspective with the Bears and a new head coach. What are they going to be doing on offense? You draft these two rookies between Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. What's their offense going to look like? Is Caleb Williams going to take a step forward with all these pieces around him? And then on the other side, you could have what I think most people would agree would be the better coaching staff. But J.J. McCarthy, to me, he's a rookie. Like, he didn't play last year. This is his first time ever playing in the NFL and in a real NFL game. So, for all intents and purposes, like, he's a rookie starter when it really comes down to it. And they're missing a piece on offense with Jordan Addison out, and we know that Justin Jefferson was dealing with some injuries in training camp. So what does their offense look like? It's going to be a little bit more balanced because they brought in Jordan Mason in the offseason. They have two backs that they can turn to now that could each realistically rack up anywhere between like 40 and 70 yards. So it's a really interesting game, but seeing a ton of scoring would surprise me.
I think, Tom, that you have two quarterbacks where there could be a ton of variance in, right? Like, I'm not saying I'm running to the window on the over, but I think, like, I'm so glad to not play this total because I think it could look disgusting. I also think there's a world that Caleb Williams has Ben Johnson and that offense is firing on all cylinders. And there's a world that J.J. McCarthy has Kevin O'Connell and that offense is firing on all cylinders. I would say overall full season, I'm higher on both offenses than both defenses. But again, I didn't find myself trusting this total. Props-wise, Tom, it might be even more difficult to trust. I don't know if there is a single game, you could maybe, challenge it, but you have an uncertain running back room in Minnesota between Mason and Aaron Jones, albeit a superstar in Justin Jefferson, but it's a high number for a brand new quarterback. DeAndre Swift seems like the guy, but you know this well. Nobody actually thinks he's good at football, right? It's why Kyle Monangai gets drafted in every single league you probably play in. And the wide receiver room in Chicago is very tricky when you think about all of the round one talent or high-level draft picks from Rome Odunze last year, Colston Loveland this year, Luther Burden, DJ Moore is still there, Cole Kmet is still there. Who in the props market stood out to you tonight for Monday Night Football?
That's going to Rome Odunze, and I think that this is the year that we will see him elevate and become the number one receiver in Chicago. This does not say that I think DJ Moore is going to have a bad season. I just think the Bears are going to be in a spot where they're going to start prioritizing Rome Odunze. And looking back at the numbers from last year, obviously we take it with a grain of salt. It's a new offense, Ben Johnson, et cetera, but Moore was ahead of Odunze in both target share and red zone target share. Not a surprise for the rookie there, but Odunze was actually ahead of DJ Moore when it comes to end zone target share. So there is some type of on-field connection that we saw with Caleb Williams and Odunze last year, and I'm buying into that they will continue to build on that. And again, maybe it's like a 1A, 1B when it's all said and done, and whether it's Moore, Odunze Moore, whatever you want to say. I like Rome Odunze. I like him going over 50.5. I saw it at 49.5. Wherever you can get it, that's where I like it.
So that is an interesting spot. I don't think this is a night where someone's going to give me a pick and I go, what are you thinking? I think it is, that tricky of a game here. Tom, there's a number of things that'll be moving, when you get 1 week of football. But I think some of the stuff within the NFC North is not finished moving because we have this game, obviously, tonight. But we got a substantial result that shifted things already between Green Bay and Detroit. I ask you, within that game, more impressed with Green Bay or concerned for Detroit?
I think it's fair to say like parts of both are true. Like but you got to pick one.
Come on,
I got to pick one. I would say concern with Detroit.
Yeah. You didn't want to say it, but you're worried.
No, I mean I think the offense will still be there. Even if we look back to the last few seasons, like Goff has been terrible out of domes. Like that's just a fact. Even when he had Ben Johnson, like playing in bad weather and or outside of domes throughout his entire career, not just yesterday, he's been bad. Mm-hmm. His home road splits are bad. All these sorts of things. So I'm willing to buy into the Lions, and especially if it's going to be at a deflated number or deflated props with St. Brown, deflated numbers for Jameson Williams that can break off an 80-yard reception. That's only going to benefit people who believe in the talent that they have. And yes, this is not to say that the offensive line didn't have issues. Goff's numbers at a box score level didn't look terrible, but watching the game, things didn't look great.
Yeah, he can thank Isaac Tesla for salvaging some of that. I think you know what, Tom, I'll get your thoughts. Jahmyr Gibbs, 10 catches, 31 yards.
Right.
This is a guy, offensive player of the year, top 5 odds. Props are super high. The fantasy world, of course.
Yeah.
What about Jahmyr Gibbs from this perspective?
I mean, you can, again, like you're going to create, or not only you, but like anyone out there, the proverbial you will create whatever narrative they want to. Like I could say this is a 1-game sample size with a quarterback who does struggle on the road. It's kind of irrelevant when we have a large sample size of him being very, very good. Or you could say like, oh, this is the crack in the armor. Like the Lions are going to sink at this point and Gibbs is going to be terrible and the touches will be there, but they'll be inefficient. He's not going to score the same amount of touchdowns, et cetera, et cetera. So I see it as a very tough defense that he was going up against with the first game with the first offensive or, new offensive coordinator. I'm willing to forgive that. And then as we see things progress over the next 3-4 weeks, that's what's going to tell us the truth, not one game.
The high and low, okay? The bright side, the downside. 10 receptions, 31 yards. Listen, that's great. Bright side. Jahmyr Gibbs still had less carries than David Montgomery. That's the bad side.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, yeah. I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
So game 1, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions on a busy Monday night where anybody who plays for the 49ers may be injured. That is really where we are at right now in San Francisco. We will get to that in a little bit because there are injuries tonight that could be impacting the lines. Christian Darrisaw, the star left tackle on the Minnesota Vikings, will be out. The Chicago Bears, with multiple key players from their secondary missing this game, including Kyler Gordon and Jalen Johnson. Tom, as this news starts to trickle out, Tom Vecchio with us here on Game Time Decisions. Tom, as this news pours out, does it swing anything that you're doing within this football game tonight?
As this news is coming out, as we were on air and going to a break, I just jumped in on Justin Jefferson over 24.5 for his longest reception. It was sitting at minus 120, a little bit of a boost on it to get it to closer to even money. But listen, all it takes is a missed tackle from from a now depleted secondary for the Bears and or just pure talent alone where he can do this in any single matchup. So although I do like J.J. McCarthy under 31.5 pass attempts tonight, there's a clear opportunity for Justin Jefferson to break a big one off tonight.
All right, we're here with Tom Vecchio on this Monday night. Tom Vecchio, again, excellent in the football world, but, of course, one half of pro baseball today as he and Donnie had an excellent Major League Baseball season. And I know, Tom, you're still keeping tabs on everything happening within Major League Baseball. A game maybe you didn't play tonight, but maybe it didn't stand out to you. But I thought it was noteworthy that the New York Mets were around minus 130 in Philadelphia. That is something that, for me, I know pitching matchups dictate, but home field advantage is relevant. The Mets just lost a series in Cincinnati. They're nearly 10 games under 500 on the road. The Phils, of course, have been great in their ballpark this season. And my biggest takeaway is when we get to the playoffs, this Phillies team, who has spent most of the year priced as the second best to win the World Series, and still is, if the Mets can go into Citizens Bank, booked as favorites, then the Phillies are far more vulnerable than the market is currently projecting.
Yes and no. I think this is a product of Nola being on the mound, who's been terrible. If Chris Sanchez was on the mound, I don't think they'd be favorites. If it was
certainly not.
No, and then the news that Turner and Stott both went on the IL. So I think people are just trying to buy into be like, oh, hey, Nola's been terrible, and this is a weak lineup. So they're just buying into the Mets because they're getting them at a decent price. And if you say closed at 130, so it's earlier in the day, people are getting them at a pick 'em or close to 115, wherever it is. There's like the money just moves. So it's like, hey, I'm just going to jump on the Mets because why not?
Do you think also some of it could be Nolan McLean, and maybe this guy is
good.
I know it's such a small sample size, Tom, but the raw numbers at minimum, I don't know if any of the underlying metrics disagree. The raw numbers say that this kid is ace level.
And if he's ace level, and especially if we're just going on results, like his results of recent, however many starts it is versus Nola's recent starts, like there's one clear favorite in that spot. And that would be McLean, who's been downright awesome. Like realistically, he's been piling up strikeouts. There's not too many walks. I know he struggled. It was against Detroit early in that start against the Tigers. But based on recent results, the better pitcher is McLean, not Nola, and a depleted lineup. Sure, buy into the Mets.
Look quickly, Tom, before we let you get out of here, Dodgers tonight, they host the Rockies. They do so as minus 360 favorites. It would be stunning if they lost this game. But then again, this team being swept by the Pirates and then nearly swept by the Orioles was pretty stunning.
They also lost 2 to the Rockies like 2 weeks ago. They lost at 2 out of 4.
I don't think there's a good case to be made that someone else should be favored to win the World Series. But as someone who nearly bet the Dodgers, they popped it around 4-1. You know this, 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Are we at a point now where the Dodgers numbers should be falling even further back, and we should believe that they're a good team but not a great team? Because everything seems to suggest that.
I've been of the belief that the Dodgers were priced there solely due to risk aversion by the books. Like they're never going to put them at 10-1, but they're also never going to move them to, 1.5 or, plus 150 or whatever it is, just because that's an insane price, but they're going to keep them at 230, 240 and then moves. Like there's no clear reason to trust the Dodgers when they have been this up and down, this injured, and they can't get things done when it matters the most. And yes, it's the regular season and everyone's going to say, there'll be the Dodgers in the playoffs, but there's no reason to buy in at a bad price.
What would be, again, I know you don't, what would be the number where you go, okay, I probably have to bet this? At 6-1?
6-1 after the playoff bracket comes out, knowing the matchup, the path they have to take.
So you have to you're not even touching it before the bracket?
No, thanks.
All right, fair enough. Tom Vecchio, excellent as always. We go from the World Series favorites to the brand new Super Bowl favorites next on Game Time Decisions.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole lot of lot of money in there. Boy,
Yeah.
I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh,
I was like, oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts. Oh, yeah. And I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions live here on a Monday, which means, of course, it is a market movement Monday because week one is always going to shift things, but it shifted a lot due to Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills beating the Baltimore Ravens in incredible comeback fashion. And it was a game that I didn't have a side. I lost my Mark Andrews bets. He was uninvolved after the opening drive of that football game. Okay? But the result somewhat put a smile on my face. Because as you know, if you've tuned into this show consistently in the build-up to this NFL season, I nearly bet the Baltimore Ravens as my Super Bowl pick. And I know out there in the sports media landscape where the Ravens are the overwhelming Super Bowl pick, they aren't considering odds as much as we are here on this desk. But odds aren't the only reason to say, maybe I shouldn't pick the Ravens to win the Super Bowl. The Ravens having the best roster in football, as many proclaim, is not new. The Ravens having an unstoppable, unguardable offense is not new. The Ravens losing in this fashion is not new. John Harbaugh all of a sudden being compared to Doc Rivers online is fair and worrisome. And John Harbaugh will not be gone in the middle of this season. But if the Ravens season ends like this, he just might be. Not going to get rid of Lamar. Getting rid of Derrick Henry, that doesn't do anything. Consistent failure at the highest level leads to change, or at least a conversation. I've seen Sean McDermott on the hot seat. I've seen Nick Sirianni on the hot seat. Andy Reid was fired by Philadelphia. I know the Ravens win a lot of regular season games. This isn't about being a regular season team anymore for the Ravens. It's about winning playoff games, and last night felt like one. And they lost. And that's why the Buffalo Bills are now the Super Bowl favorites. And I don't disagree. I think the Super Bowl favorites, there are only two teams you can make an argument for. Buffalo and Philly. Philly's argument is just solely based on the fact that they haven't lost a game Jalen Hurts has finished since last year's bye week in like September. That's how long ago you have to go back to find an Eagles loss. They're the defending Super Bowl champions. But if you want to do odds correlation and path, Buffalo has it in spades. And the divisional price for Buffalo was already the highest you could find. Right now, minus 165 is the second highest divisional price on one sports book. Both Tampa Bay and Philadelphia settled with that number. Minus 500 is what the Buffalo Bills are positioned at to win the AFC East. With postseason pedigree combined with their path to just making the playoffs as a high seed, the Bills check that box. And that also is why Josh Allen has moved now to a very real MVP favorite after just one game. Josh Allen had the most noteworthy quarterback performance of the opening week. That's undeniable. 394 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, over 400 yards of offense, beating the only team possibly that would be favored in their building, in the Ravens, in incredible comeback fashion. I mean, all of that is going to lend itself. But Josh Allen last year in his MVP victory did buck a trend. He won it while not being the number 1 seed. With a loss for the Ravens and a loss for the Chiefs, starting those seasons, Buffalo has to be right now the favorite to take the top spot in the AFC, and they are. At plus 150, by the way. 6-1 and 7-1 is where you find the Ravens and the Chiefs, respectively. So it gives you an idea of just how much of an impact that game had on the market. You did get, though, a shift around Derrick Henry. A considerable one. Derrick Henry is now plus 600. Plus 600 to win Offensive Player of the Year. And I'm not sure it's an overreaction. Saquon Barkley is going to struggle to meet the level that he met last year. That's just the math on it. Justin Jefferson plays tonight. We'll see what he brings to the table. I think the Puka move is Puka Nacua, I felt like, spent half the game dealing with an injury. Still somehow finished with almost 150 yards. Had 10 receptions. It's incredible. CMC, will he hold up? I'm not so sure about all of that. Jamar Chase, a big faller due to the struggles. But why the Derrick Henry move is valid is the Ravens check the winning box, okay, in a way that, despite the loss, a lot of these other guys, a lot of these other contemporaries don't necessarily check. Not to belabor the point. Again, we know Saquon and Philly. Minnesota, not a playoff lock. The Rams and the Niners are in the mix, right? But they're going to trade hands. The divisional favorite status, that's up in the air. Cowboys aren't supposed to make the playoffs. Falcons with the Bijan Robinson are not supposed to make the playoffs. Cincinnati and Jamar Chase, with a win, they're probably favored, but it didn't look good, and that's why Jamar moved so much. So Henry being the favorite, I'm okay with. But I'm not betting at plus 600. And I think that's some of the thing that we want to do here within this market movement. Figure out what's moved. Can you justify the move? And then do you need to go hand in hand with that move? Do you need to meet that move and say, okay, they've got this right, or they didn't move it enough? Those become the questions. A move I do not agree with, a move that I cannot make any sense of, is Myles Garrett being the new Defensive Player of the Year favorite. That's a head scratcher. That math does not equal up. Myles Garrett is the best defensive player in the National Football League. I think that is not unanimous, but around consensus. And Myles Garrett was one of a handful of players with multiple sacks. But the Cleveland Browns lost. The Cleveland Browns are going to keep losing. And there are a lot of stars that will be in contention for this race. Probably none bigger than Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons, Packers-Lions, and I am sure almost all of you watched, right? Depending how you manage your screens. Lions-Packers, a big game. Micah Parsons was by far and away the biggest story of that football game, and he only played in like 30% of it. He gets the sack. That's the moment of the game. The game was already over. That was the moment of the game. Parsons is going to be really hard to push off from this standpoint. Unless Parsons is just never going to get a full workload of snaps because his back is actually injured, I don't think he should have lost his status. The other big move we saw in the Defensive Player of the Year market, though, does align with what was our favorite awards bet, Nick Bosa to a Defensive Player of the Year, 15-1. They're slashing prices, plus 850. Come on now, get ahead of your holiday shopping. Get your loved ones a Nick Bosa DPOY ticket. Ices the game against the Seattle Seahawks with a strip sack fumble. It also moved, heck, if you want another piece of it, Robert Saleh into the favorite for Assistant Coach of the Year. Nick Bosa is going to have himself a big season. We go back to Monday Night Football with some best bets next.
Enter into the magical world of McLuck.com, where even the smallest of spins can win real cash prizes. Adventure into over 1,000 of the best Vegas-style slot games. So what are you waiting for? Unlock your free welcome offer today. Join the fun where winners play and players win.
Donnie, the season is 6 months, 5 if you check out in September. You're going to have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month. That is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're going to win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes one. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I was looking at it through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls and anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Did you know sportsbooks tend to draw up tighter bet lines for events that get even more bettors, like championship games or major matchups? My tip? Try betting on less popular sports. You might have a better shot at beating those odds. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Game time decisions. We're in the mix with you. Let's talk a little best bets, especially because one of these is actually about to run off of the board here. AJ is going to go to the Atlanta Braves because he's still a baseball guy, and there could be value on the baseball board. He's going to take the Braves at nearly a plus price at home with Bryce Elder on the mound against Shoto Imanaga. The Cubbies have done a nice job kind of cementing their position inside the playoffs, but they have no chance really to catch Milwaukee. Just a nightmare season for the Braves. Really hard to tell what next year the outlook will be on Atlanta. I think it's going to be one of the more important Major League Baseball offseason storylines, as this team is going to finish comfortably under 500 on the year. Since we're here, we might as well talk some other best bets in case you're just tuning in with us. Of course, you're likely looking for action here on Monday Night Football. Chicago Bears. Let's get your latest lines. Are they still sitting as 1.5-point favorites? Well, we're on the move. I'm seeing a -1. I'm seeing a pick. All right, we're looking. Little love for Chicago in the market. Total sitting right now 43.5 everywhere we look. A couple of guys in the back, they're going to go prop style here. Pat goes to Colston Loveland, 3 receptions. Remember, he was the first tight end off the board. Tyler Warren had himself a heck of a debut with the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see what Loveland puts together in that crowded pass-catching room for the Chicago Bears. Yarnell, no surprise here. It's an 8-1 best bet. Luther Burden, anytime touchdown. Maybe you could use it as a jackpot play over on FanDuel. Kofsky with your Alta down, combine them together, parlay. TJ Hawkinson, Roma Dunzy for 40-plus receiving yards. You'll get plus 164 on that. I am on the Chicago Bears plus 1.5. I will talk more about that, but our guys in the back did opt to put together a little primetime producer parlay. So in case you want to back the fellas in a couple of other ways, here's what they're going to go with. TJ Hawkinson, 5 grabs. That's Chris's leg. Sam will play Vikings-Bears first quarter under 7.5 -130. And then AJ, not scared to attack the questionable backfield that is the Minnesota Vikings, takes Jordan Mason for 40-plus rushing. That is a plus 546 primetime producer parlay. Now, to zone in on the Chicago Bears and to zone in on one of the games that I knew where I stood when they announced the game, and then, of course, you know, the sports books post their lines. But I also... I'm willing to change. I'm willing to adjust. I thought the sports books would as well, though. When they announced Bears-Vikings and sports books began with Minnesota as a slight favorite in Chicago, I thought to myself, no way. No way that is what it's going to look like when we're here in September betting this football game. Then I did my preseason research, my breakdowns, my figuring out what do I like here, what do I dislike there, vibes, this, that, and the third. Offensive lines, secondary, what can we trust, right? And I like the Bears way more than the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings were one of my 2 favorite win totals towards the under, and along with the Cleveland Browns. The Minnesota Vikings, I do not believe in their defense. Everybody else does. Oh, they added Jonathan Allen. Oh, they added Javon Hargrave. These guys have not been good in recent years. Big names, not big production. I think that Brian Flores did an incredible job last year. I worry, though, it's a bit gimmicky to just blitz every play, and this year he could be found out a little bit more. Ben Johnson seemingly had a recipe for that Vikings defense. We saw that a little bit. And offensively, I know they poured resources into the offensive line. But J.J. McCarthy is a guy I'm not buying, and I think the Vikings have had a bit of buyer's remorse on. Remember, J.J. McCarthy, prior to the injury, wasn't going to beat out Sam Darnold for the Week 1 starting job. And then we were in the offseason, and are they going to get rid of Darnold? Are they going to pay Darnold? And they ultimately did. But even after doing that, I was like, do you think the Vikings are going to bring in Aaron Rodgers? Bring in Aaron Rodgers? What? McCarthy has had multiple knee surgeries, since being drafted. So I have questions on offense. I have questions on defense. And I think the Bears present a lot more upside. I believe in Caleb Williams more than J.J. McCarthy. I think I like the Bears' offensive lines additions more than the Minnesota Vikings. While the Bears do not have a Justin Jefferson, I like their pass-catching room. They threw a lot at it. DJ Moore's talented. Roma Dunze was worth being at least a first-round draft choice at the wide receiver position. Colston Loveland, again, the first tight end off of the board. Luther Burden, Cole Kmet. There's a lot of guys there for Caleb to work with. And they bring in Ben Johnson, who 2 years ago was the most sought-after head coach candidate. Took a beat, stayed in Detroit, and then lands in Chicago. We have been awaiting Ben Johnson being a head coach. He's a Coach of the Year favorite for a reason. And defensively, I think the Bears just need to connect on a couple of guys. Now, that's over the course of a season. Tonight, they're a little bit banged up. Let's see if J.J. McCarthy can take advantage. But home field advantage is something that I still feel occasionally I'm the last one alive talking about, right? On these 1.5-point lines. But it matters to me. It matters to me that yesterday the Ravens were favored in Buffalo. I do not think you can dismiss that just because, it was only 1.5 points. The Bills haven't lost a home regular season game since November of 2023. It's 2025. The Chicago Bears are home underdogs to J.J. McCarthy? In J.J. McCarthy's home debut, or road debut? What? What? I said it off the top. Tonight is way more for most bettors about who are you betting against and who are you betting on. I'm betting against J.J. McCarthy. But I'm also betting against Caleb Williams. I'm betting on Caleb Williams. Give me the Bears plus 1.5. I may or may not have played a little alt minus 9.5. That's between me and the big man. That's between me and him.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Back here on a Monday night, which means we have Monday Night Football. We did, though, have ourselves an incredible week number 1, which, by the way, was loaded with unders. Loaded with unders. Some tough beats. Falcons, Bucks, you probably felt like you deserved better. Colts, Dolphins, if you get 33 out of Indianapolis, you probably think that's got to be yours, right? Did the weather stop you from getting enough points in Jacksonville, Carolina? Maybe. You were never getting there with Rams, Texans. I played it. You were never getting there. You were just never getting there in Browns, Bengals. Not with that revamped Cincinnati defense. My goodness. What a performance. You got there on Sunday night, Bills-Ravens. You know the other spot you got there? The shootout we all expected. Justin Fields versus Aaron Rodgers. These two combined for 7 touchdowns. These two teams combined for 66, not 6-7, 66 points. Fields with a passer rating nearly at 120. Little short, though, of Aaron Rodgers. 136.7 passer rating, 4 passing touchdowns. With revenge on the mind, Aaron Rodgers delivered. And that's not immediate creation. Aaron Rodgers said it himself.
You spoke about the meeting with Aaron Glenn on McAfee a few months ago. Beating him, is there significance in that, since he basically told you to your face that he didn't think you were right for that team?
Yes, that's what he did.
So there's significance in beating him for you?
I was happy to beat everybody associated with the Jets.
Insert 50 Cent meme, Breece Hall. You point like, what? Like, what's he mad at me for? Then again, maybe, I don't know, maybe him and Breece Hall didn't get along. Maybe him and Garrett Wilson didn't get along. I actually think that it is fair to suggest he and Garrett Wilson didn't get along, especially when flew Devontae Adams in to steal some touches away. I think when we see the lower scoring to start week number 1, I think a lot of it is situational, right? I think we will, people wonder, could maybe this be a little tied to, people not playing in the preseason, but we actually got more quarterback play probably in the preseason than we were necessarily used to. Like Russell Wilson played in the preseason. What good did it do? Caleb Williams played in the preseason. I think J.J. McCarthy snuck in there a little bit. Caleb Williams tonight, 214.5 passing, 1.5 passing touchdowns. The numbers are very similar between these two quarterbacks. J.J. McCarthy settling in now at 212.5, also 1.5 passing touchdowns for McCarthy. If I were to get involved tonight in the props market, and this, we've been not abstaining from the props market. Yesterday's crunch went 2-1 on Pro Football Today, which was great. But, hey, if we love a side, we love a side, and we don't want to overforce things. Also, props will start to see, I think, clearer as the season goes on. Sometimes people, I think that's the inverse. I disagree. But Caleb Williams' completion sitting at 20.5 does jump out. Some of that tied to how consistently Jared Goff went over that number. New offense. Caleb Williams also talks a lot about wanting to be like 75% completion, which is crazy. Like comfortably a record. But maybe we wouldn't need as many attempts. I think that's an area that you can look at. We've talked about crowded backfields. Aaron Jones, 47.5 on the ground. Jordan Mason, 39.5. Books aren't sure what to do. Books are not sure what to do. In the wide receiver room, DJ Moore, 56.5. Romanense, 47.5. And that, I don't think, is necessarily a number that is, we think these are, two guys, expect way in the 50s. I think there's some uncertainty there. There's also the uncertainty of how the Vikings look without Jordan Addison these first 3 games. Little under the radar storyline. Supposed to be entering his 3rd season. I don't know about a breakout candidate, but, a guy who's going to produce in this offense certainly has produced in his first 2 years in this offense. Does Adam Thielen step up back in the purple? Is this just more TJ Hawkinson sitting at 42.5? These are the questions that sit out there right now, and these are the questions that Adam Kaufman, who, of course, you can catch across the SportsGrid Network, does a great job on In-Game Live, will be joining us here tonight to talk a little Bears-Vikings, but we can also look in the rear view. What happened on Sunday? I'll do my best to not bring up. We'll get to it.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole lot of heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
So game one, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh,
I was like, oh, yeah, Jalen Hurts, I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
GameTime Decisions is live on a Monday night, getting you ready for Monday Night Football. In-game live, we'll have you covered, of course, throughout this game between the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Someone who you can often catch on an in-game live has a lot of reach there. So on one of the editions of In-Game Live across the SportsGrid network, you will find Adam Kaufman. Also does an excellent job filling in on shows. I'm pretty sure Adam got the call. They'll need him at the end of September, which is for right here on Game Time Decisions. Adam, look, it's great to see you. We have plenty to get to.
I wasn't sure about the pretty sure part. I didn't know if it was going to be, I'm pretty sure he got the call, or I'm pretty sure he does a good job when he gets the call. I wasn't sure which way that was going to swing, so thank you. Yes, I will be on in late September. Yes. I look forward to it.
Always does a good job. Pretty sure he got the call.
Okay, all right, very good. Got it.
Look, Adam, I'm pretty sure you're betting this game tonight between the Bears and the Vikings. Though I got to say, if this was a 1 o'clock and you're like, I can't get there, I'd understand it. But it's prime time. That usually gets people in the mix. So tell me, what stood out to you between the Bears and the Vikings?
Yeah, look, if you're not betting the island games, I mean, are you even betting football? What are we doing here? We need the sweat, right? So you're right. It's not a great game. I don't have a strong conviction about it, meaning if I was throwing together, as I want to do, some money line parlays for the week of my favorite spots entering, let's say, Thursday night football, with this Monday night game between the Bears and the Vikings have been part of it? No. That being said, if you're in one of those leagues, as I am, you probably are, where you just got to pick who wins and you're looking to get all the games right, I'm on the dog here. I like Chicago at plus money. You could take the plus 1.5. It'd be easy normally, if not for last night and what happened on Sunday Night Football I was on the wrong side of this, but an incredible game, obviously, if you were just a viewer, a spectator, and take the betting side out of it, especially if you, like me, were on the Baltimore side. I would have said, I mean, how often does a game come down to 1 point anyway? Just take the plus, take the money line, forget the plus 1.5. That, recency bias would tell you maybe the plus 1.5 is pretty relevant here. All of that said, I do like the Bears to win. I think that, I don't know, I think Chicago's getting slept on a little bit here, Kev. Ben Johnson, not that he is getting slept on as the new head coach, offensive genius, all of these things, and Caleb Williams in year 2 after a kind of underwhelming freshman season in the NFL has some weapons around him. think DeAndre Swift is in for a good game. There's basically no viable backfield behind him, mind you. I like DJ Moore. I like Rome Odunze. I like the weapons in that offense. I like the creativity that Johnson and his new coordinators are theoretically going to bring to the field. And I think we are in for some serious regression out of Minnesota throughout this year off of what they did last year with Sam Darnold. I think that J.J. McCarthy is not going to be a good pro. I didn't like J.J. McCarthy at Michigan. He's not a prolific passer. He's not a guy that, runs a great offense. He needs his teams to win on defense. And if that ends up happening tonight, it means Caleb Williams was ultimately either really bad or J.J. McCarthy, I'm wrong, was really good. I think a lot of tonight's outcome is going to hinge on the rookie. And to me, he is still a rookie. I know he was in the league last year, but he didn't play a single game, and he's coming off an injury. NFL debut in prime time. He has Justin Jefferson. That's great. He doesn't have his number 2, Jordan Addison, and the backfield is kind of iffy. I mean, it projects to maybe be good, but we don't know who to invest in between Jordan Mason and obviously Aaron Jones. So I think there are a lot of questions in this game that would just leave me away from the prop market altogether. What I do like, though, is Chicago at slight plus money.
Yeah, I'm on the Bears as well. You mentioned backing Ben Johnson, and I think Ben Johnson's position as Coach of the Year favorite is rightful. His closest contender in the market did take a loss, though, entering the season at least. That was Mike Vrabel. The injuries in week number 1 pregame, you could debate, but the Pats missing Christian Gonzalez felt like maybe the most noteworthy. Certainly, I would think would be inside that top 5, Adam. But is that enough to justify giving up 362 passing to Geno Smith? It shouldn't have any impact on the fact that the Patriots offense only scored 13 points. It's a New England team that is hyped entering into the season to double last year's win total, maybe make the playoffs. What was your takeaway from the Raiders winning in Foxborough?
Yeah, anyone who's heard me here on the grid throughout the last several weeks knows that I believe that the Patriots are a 9-10 win team going into the regular season and a playoff team, or at least very much in the mix for a wild card spot, not winning the division, but a wild card spot there in the AFC where there's, I think, pardon me, a lot of parity. But one of those wins to me was season opening at home against the Raiders. And sure, you could point to no Christian Gonzalez, and I don't think Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers go off to quite the degree that they did if you have Gonzalez. Clearly, he's an all-pro. He's, a dynamic player. He's excellent. But it's not that the defense overall was that bad. It really wasn't that bad. It's supposed to be the strength, and it gave up a lot of yards. You're not wrong about that. But you didn't give up 35, 40 points. I think the main issue was the offense. Drake May, for anyone that believes in him as being, kind of the next great Patriots quarterback, and there are a lot of people around my neck of the woods that do, and I'm a Drake May supporter. He didn't look like it yesterday, didn't look like the guy. And I think, you could point at him for some of that, and you can point, obviously, at his receiving core and that offense for some of that, but I think it has to start at the top. It has to start with Mike Vrabel, the head coach. It has to start with Josh McDaniels, an elite offensive coordinator throughout his career. Much of that career had Tom Brady at his side, but even still, this is someone that came in with, as you noted, it's not just the team that was hyped. It was, oh my God, they have a real offensive coordinator. Well, what was the real offensive coordinator doing out there looking like he was calling plays the same way Alex Van Pelt did last year, who was not a real offensive coordinator or true play caller or someone that belonged in that role? You couldn't tell those two apart yesterday. So I think that was deeply concerning. And that's even knowing that the Patriots offense was not supposed to be a great strength of theirs this year. Again, they're supposed to win games in defense, but you still got to put up 20 plus points, be in the fight, especially against a team that was out there for the first time altogether, preseason training camps, that sort of thing notwithstanding. Pete Carroll, first time coach of this team. Geno Smith, I know they worked together in Seattle, but first time quarterback. Your receiving core has turned over to some degree, but you have that new QB work with him alongside. It's just there should have been a little bit of a challenge, a little bit of a feel out process there. And from the get-go, New England had trouble stopping this team. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't get off the field on third down. That was problematic.
Yeah, it certainly was. As someone who was in on New England entering into the season, I don't think all hope is lost. I do think it's alarming, and we'll handle this a lot more tomorrow. No team looked worse in week number 1 than the Miami Dolphins. That's who the Pats play next. They're dogs in that game. Now, I get it. Miami's home. I'm not saying New England should be favored, but for a team, the fact that I'm not saying New England should be favored, despite thinking that they were going to make the playoffs, it says a lot about how non-convincing that effort was at home against. In fact, listen, I'm not afraid. I'm sure Adam the same. I'm not afraid to back my preseason perceptions in week number 1. It's why I'm on the Bears. High on Chicago, low on Minnesota. We get to the window. The fact that I didn't lay 2.5 with the New England Patriots at home against the Raiders spoke volumes. Just about the situation and the trust of it all. In week number 1, you never want to wildly overreact, but you check the temperature on predictions. And I don't know right now if New England being in the playoffs is something that I'm doing a victory lap over. I'm wondering why, that wasn't more of a futures day play involving Jacksonville, for example. These are all the things, though, that we deal with through the start of an NFL season, but it's why we call Adam Kaufman to help us talk through some of it. It's why we're going to keep Adam around to talk through a little bit more of it, because as we said off the top of this show, week number 1, the market is going to move. And when you get a game like Sunday night, it's going to move a lot. We'll continue to break it down and get you ready for Monday Night Football next.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football, because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
So game 1, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
Oh,
I was like, yeah, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, that's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions on a Monday night. We check in on the odds for Monday Night Football. Right now, we still see a line that's moving quite a bit. 1.5, -1. There's some buy, it looks like, a little bit on Chicago, which in some way is surprising. It feels like with the injury reports coming out, it maybe, if anything, would have pushed Viking money onto the board. Not necessarily how things play out. Your total, though, still sitting steady at 43.5. You talk about market moves, though. you have to talk about Sunday Night Football, the Buffalo Bills and the Baltimore Ravens. To talk about with us is Adam Kaufman. Again, you can catch him here on the SportsGrid Network throughout a number of shows, including In-Game Live. And Adam, the market moving, Super Bowl, division, that was expected. But we got a decent move in the MVP market as well. The winner of that game being the favorite, not super surprising. I'm almost surprised that I feel right now Josh Allen probably should be a bit shorter. I'm not running to bet him at plus 300, admittedly, so maybe I'm wrong to say that. But Buffalo is 1-0. The Chiefs and the Ravens are 0-1. He had 400 total yards of offense and 4 touchdowns in what will likely end up one of the 5, if not the most memorable games of the entire regular season. Do you think that the books got it right by pushing Josh Allen to the league MVP favorite?
So as someone who proudly had a Josh Allen plus 750 ticket going into last season, when I was, again, very happy to see him win, I think he was the deserving MVP, taking nothing away from how great Lamar Jackson obviously was throughout last year. But I think there was this stigma of, well, he has Derrick Henry, and who does Josh Allen have? And a lot of that stuff continues to play itself out. And people, if these two guys continue throughout the year to be as good as they were last year, as good as they looked last night, they're going to be right there in the conversation toward the end of the regular season, obviously. And much the same way as at the end of last year, one of the arguments was, who's the only guy that beat Kansas City and beat Detroit? Well, that was Josh Allen. And, well, he they lost to Baltimore in the regular season. They got thrashed, but that was week 3. Look at how good he's been since. And obviously, we see what ends up happening in the playoffs. And then, to have this feather in his cap now in the regular season, the game that, will be viewed as meaningful, and to come back the way that he did, in the manner that he did, in historic fashion, and also put up the numbers that he did. And throughout this year, unless they go out and make some big swing, and I don't think they're going to, what weapons does Josh Allen really have around him? Like, James Cook is a good running back. He's not a top-tier running back. Who's viewing Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, and some of these guys like Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid as these world beaters? These are not household names unless you are a diehard of the NFL and a rigid fantasy player and better and all of these things. So Josh Allen is kind of lifting all ships. He's doing the Tom Brady thing. He's making everyone better around him in a way that not everyone does. Honestly, in a way that Patrick Mahomes doesn't do. And so I agree with you. I think the number probably should be a bit shorter right now. I think you're seeing some value on 3-1. I don't want to bet it because I always wonder, this is not something the computer decides. It's not, the algorithm doesn't come into play with this thing ultimately. This is voters, and voters can be victims of recency bias. And he just won it last year. Sure, he was really good, but who else was comparable? Maybe we give it to them because they haven't won before. Or even if it was Lamar, yeah, he's won, but he didn't win last year. Last year he was first team, first team All-Pro and viewed as the best quarterback in the league by that measurement. But when it came to the most valuable player, we sort of split the card and we gave that one to Allen. Maybe we wind up reversing it. And so again, when it's humans, Kev, that are making these decisions, it gets a little fishy. It gets a little tricky.
Yeah, it does. And I think last year, those who held Josh Allen tickets probably felt that the most because he seemingly had it locked up. And then the Lamar narrative just kept running. And it's not that Lamar didn't have a legitimate case to make, but again, his case last year was counterintuitive to his case the year prior in which he had won the award. Now, we do have some breaking news in the National Football League. And some news, I got to tell you, that's a little confusing to me. As the Philadelphia Eagles are trading for Jacksonville Jaguar running back Tank Bigsby. And Tank Bigsby being traded is not surprising. The Jaguars saw Travis Etienne look maybe the best he ever has in the NFL in the opener against Carolina, and they like Vatek rookie Bashal Tutin. It's simple as that. It's a little bit crowded if you want to continuously get guys work. But now the Eagles, albeit a team who we know who the clear number one is, do seem a little heavy in the running back room. They like Will Shipley. They like A.J. Dillon. They now trade for Tank Bigsby. Could be an odd man out situation. The thing is, that trade will be categorized as, oh, look, the Eagles wheeling and dealing. That's a Jaguar story. That's a Travis Etienne prop story, touchdown story. That's a Byshell Tootin prop story, touchdown market story. That's how I read it. We're here with Adam Kaufman. Any different reaction from you on what seems to be a minor move by the Philadelphia Eagles?
See, I'm not so sure it's a minor move. I do think ultimately it speaks more volumes, if you will, of the Jacksonville side. And like you said, the belief in ETN and just what they have and that backfield and what they're trying to grow as they rebuild. And hey, it's always good to have more kicks at the can, more darts, meaning more draft picks. Philadelphia gave up a 5th and a 6th to get Tank Bigsby, who has some versatility. Like, I think Tank Bigsby is, maybe not as valuable as A.J. Dillon and all the different things he can do. Obviously not Saquon Barkley. I think you could use him in a way that that speedster Will Shipley could make him potentially an odd man out. But what you're not going to do, Kev, is have 4 running backs that are active on your game day roster.
Right.
So, I don't know if they keep 4 ultimately, or if they're, maybe they risk dropping one to move to the practice squad. I just think running back depth, and Philadelphia knows this, is so important over the length of a season. And you put yourself in position to get back to a Super Bowl, which obviously Philadelphia hopes to do. You want to give Saquon as light a load as you can during the regular season.
Yeah, certainly something to keep our eye on, Adam. We appreciate it. We'll get you the best bets for Monday Night Football next.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football, because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
So game 1, I already made a mistake. I put my touchdown prop bets in hours ago. When you and I started talking before kickoff, I got so excited and I bet him again without even thinking that I already did it.
I
was like, Jalen Hurts. I was like, and then I was like, wait, I think I already did this. And I scrolled down. I was like, yeah, you already did do this. And I was like, oh, it's okay. That's okay.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions. We close this out before In-Game Live takes over for their full coverage of Monday Night Football and NFC North battle to close out Week 1 in the National Football League between the Chicago Bears and the Minnesota Vikings. Tomorrow, we will talk more about this Jacksonville Jaguars, Philadelphia Eagles trade. What does this mean for Saquon Barkley, if anything, as the Eagles acquire Tank Bigsby? There's also a lot of 49er injuries that we just didn't have the time to get to today. We'll figure out tomorrow, does it shift their odds within the NFC West and NFC outright markets? What are the spread? What does that spread start to look like? The Niners are on the road against the New Orleans Saints in a gotta-have-it game, because if you're the Niners and you're supposed to do what the Niners are trying to do, you can't be dropping games to New Orleans. We saw business handled by Arizona in that spot. The look-ahead line's a little bit lighter for the Niners. Perhaps they were aware there was going to be some injuries beyond just George Kittle. Again, we will break that down, though, on tomorrow's show. On tonight, though, a quick look at the Major League Baseball board before we once again remind you of the best bets here before Monday Night Football. Guardians rolling up the Kansas City Royals. That is an 8-0 Cleveland lead, as these two teams are nearly even right now in the standings, trying to see if there's any breathing room in the back end of that American League wild card race. Washington up on the Miami Marlins. The Phillies up early on the Mets. They have flipped to favorites within this baseball game, as they are going to head into the top of the fifth inning with at least a 1-0 lead. We'll see if they could tack on more here in the bottom of the fourth. Good for our guy AJ with his bets bet, as he's got the Braves up 3-0 on the Chicago Cubs. Let's remind you of the other best bets here on this Monday night from Chris. He's going to go to TJ Hawkinson and Roma Dunze, each for 40-plus receiving yards. Yarnell goes to Luther Burden's anytime touchdown number at plus 800. Pat checks in with a Colston Loveland 3-plus reception prop at minus 125. We also have a primetime producer parlay, so root the fellas in, why don't you? It's a plus 546 number. Hawkinson for 5 grabs, the under in the first quarter at 7.5, and then Jordan Mason for 40-plus rushing yards. My best bet tonight is the Chicago Bears plus 1.5. The better team is at home getting points. That's where I'm at. That is where I'm at. While there are some injuries in the secondary for the Chicago Bears, I'll make J.J. McCarthy beat me. I'll make J.J. McCarthy take advantage of that. Vikings offensive line isn't entering into this game 100%, but Ben Johnson may be more important than anybody else is. We saw the Lions struggle in week number 1. You imagine the game plan Ben Johnson's been cooking up all offseason waiting for this moment? Can you imagine Caleb Williams all offseason waiting for this moment? You know, you go through last season. How many guys were more disappointing than Caleb Williams? And you could try and say that that's unfair. But Caleb Williams has the first overall pick for 365, by the way. Caleb Williams won a Heisman Trophy and then spent 365 days as the favorite to be the first overall pick in that draft, and was. And all in all, 20 passing touchdowns to 6 interceptions is good. 3,500 passing yards is solid. But you and I both know he was not superstar style. Not what was needed, not what was projected. He threw 4 touchdowns in London. They went on a bye. They were 4-2 and just about to be 5-2. And instead, the Bears lost to the Commanders and the second overall pick in Jaden Daniels on the Hail Mary, and then didn't win again until the final week of the regular season. But a lot of the mess that was blamed on the prior coaching staff. And I think that's fair. But it is now up to Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams to prove that to be true. And I think they will. If you wanted some other shots, some leans, listen, the props market can be tricky tonight. I like Caleb Williams over the 20.5 completions, as I think you can look at the Goff stat lines and understand how they're going to try and operate here in Chicago. Jared Goff was on a heater last year going over the completions prop as the Lions offense was on a heater, something to look for. I do think that TJ Hawkinson's a sharp looker. Guys have talked about that, but with Jordan Addison out of the lineup here, you figured out who is going to be the most reliable guy. Justin Jefferson, sure, but that's a tall prop. TJ Hawkinson sub 50 jumps out a bit. I'm also kind of interested in DeAndre Swift, if I'm honest. A little bit of a guilty pleasure. I know he's not a great running back, but he is the starting running back, and it's week number 1, and he's the starting running back on the team that I expect to win this football game tonight and start 1-0 in the division. in the NFC North. Give me the Bears, plus 1.5. In-game live is next.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas.